At last, my 559 formula is ready. It comes in a syringe like this, with a needle, with a little sticker like this. It is called Omega 559. Now let's see how it performs. Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Our patient is 86A, which is 2008 Outback, and let's see how 559 performs on this particular repair. I already gave it few tests. It's very good. I say it's really good. The main improvement of this one versus Whiskey Tango is that it does not separate. It also doesn't contain glycerin like Whiskey Tango. I kind of got used to Whiskey Tango and it really performs well for certain purposes. But the property of glycerin is such that it pulls water off the air. So that water is kind of locked in the flux. Even when I mix it, before I even pour it into the tubes, it already contains some water. And what happens when the flux contains some water? When you heat it up, it splatters, because that water is violently boiling off, and it splatters. It's not a huge issue, it's not a huge splatter, but you can recognize it, you can see that there's glycerin. This one doesn't contain glycerin. It's also fully organic, all natural ingredients. As you know, I don't use a fume extractor for these purposes, for, when I use this flux. When I use MTech 559, I have to use fume extractor because it smells really badly and I get nasty cough over time. With this one, I've been using well, not this particular formula, but the base is the same. It is just natural rosin. Not much more. That's the main active ingredient. This one also contains citric acid. So the amount of acid in it should still pass for no clean. But even with MTech 559 or King Bowl or those kind of types of flux, they all contain acid because that is the mild activator, right? That's what primarily removes the oxidant layer, the layer of oxidation from the metal that you're soldering on, and that's what gives you the good performance. Now, Whiskey Tango doesn't contain acid, so Whiskey Tango is a pure, actual no clean flux. This one, as I said, it will pass for no clean, but I recommend if you have any flux that contains any kind of acid, always clean it off. And it's not like it's gonna corrode and do some massive damage or anything like that. But if you leave King Bowl or MTech on the chip for a few weeks, maybe even a few months, then you clean it off, you can see the difference in the metal. Right? It's no longer shiny, right? So the chip technically is still good, the board or what have you is still good, but you can see that it did react with the flux. So Whiskey Tango is a true no clean. This one is, it passes for no clean, but I would still recommend cleaning it. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the chip. Then we're gonna wick with not quite appropriate tip, but it will work just fine. We're not gonna be putting a leaded solder on it. We're just gonna wick it as it is. So we're just gonna wick the lead-free solder of the board of the chip. That's usually how I do it, because it doesn't make that much of a difference, at least not to me. Okay, the chip is off. It looks awful. Yeah, that definitely didn't work. So now let's move the chip to the side and let's put 559 on the board while it's hot. It is nice and tacky. In this form, it is not sticky. Come on, right? In this form, when it's straight from the tube, it is not sticky, But once you heat it up, it will, you know, and it cools down, it will become a little sticky. That is the property of the natural rosin. Now, MTech 559 is based on synthetic resin, not organic rosin. So that is pretty much the only difference between my Flux and MTech 559. Now there's going to be a little bit of boiling action, but as you can see, not that much as the other blends of mine do. It also smells pretty good, right? It smells like pine trees. The smell might be a little bit different, but you can see there's no violent reaction like in my other blends. And you can see how well it soaks into the wick. The main reason for that is that there is citric acid in it. So it's a lot, compared to my true no clean, this one is a lot more aggressive. So for wicking, it's really good, and for corroded connections, and you know, especially if you have, I don't know, if you're rebolling something because it has corroded pads underneath, this Flux will definitely make it easier to clean that off. All right, and there we go. And now let's put the solder on right away. So we're not going to be cleaning and then putting solder. Let's put solder, so reuse the Flux that we applied. And there you go. Beautiful. Beautiful. Look how it catches the solder. Let's see, the ground, even the ground is doing pretty well. Yeah, the solder flows where we want it to flow. Awesome. Now, let's clean the chip. Shall we leave this Flux? No, let's let this one dry and solidify and stuff. And we're gonna test the cleaning, but the cleaning should be the same as all my other blends. Now, before we do the chip, let me show you what it looks like. As you can see, it is, let me get the light maybe like this, because there's maybe too much light. It's nice yellowish. You see that there are no bubbles anywhere. Yeah, I finally figured out how to remove those bubbles without a vacuum chamber. And the viscosity it's kind of like gel, I would say. It's let me put some on the chip. So as you can see, viscosity, right? It's similar to MTech 559, because the formula is essentially the same. It's only the one ingredient that is different. And I'm using 368 degrees on the iron, and let's heat up the chip, and the solder should just flow by itself to the wick there. And it cleans very nicely. It's mainly because there's some acidity to the Flux, so it's a lot more aggressive, so it'll be a lot easier for both soldering, wicking. It should be also pretty good, obviously good for tinning, because that's what you want in the Flux for tinning. There are some blends that work overall really well, but they're not good for tinning because there's not enough acidity in the Flux, so it's not as good as at removing those oxidant layer of whatever you're tinning. But there, one pass, the wick is nicely saturated and it looks good. So now let's just cut the wick, and we're not gonna need the wick anymore. Let's get some solder on the iron and tinning. As you can see, tinning is always going to be very easy with this Flux because it removes that oxidation layer really well. It flows very nicely as well. We're gonna test it on BGA eventually, but not today. There, I'm not sure if that's not a bit too much solder, but it should be fine. And now let's spray it with some alcohol. and let it sit for a second. And cleaning is pretty easy. No problems with cleaning. It dissolves in alcohol pretty well. You might see it cleaning a little differently than Whiskey Tango because it is 559 formula. It is very different from all my other blends, but the core component of all of these is natural rosin, so that is the same for all my blends. Now you can see how it's dissolving, so it cleans pretty much the same way all my other blends. You see it's slowly dissolving. Let's get the different light on it. I'm not sure how well you can see that, but it's slowly flowing away. All the flux is just slowly dissolving and essentially disappearing. Now we could just leave it like this, and it would, it will just clean itself. But I'm gonna speed up the process with the Q-tip. Now after cleaning, the surface is not sticky. That's important, or at least it's important to me. It's not, we're working with natural rosin, so there's always going to be some stickiness. There's no way around that. So if you don't like stickiness, this is probably not the flux for you. Now let's, my tweezers are sticky though. Let's clean them. And let's dispense some flux. We don't need much for this, so let's just spread it maybe like this. Now it is pretty tacky, so it goes a long way, right? It'll last you, a tube of 10 cc will last you a while because of this tackiness. The main great thing about it is that it doesn't separate. So that is important, especially in micro soldering, because if it does separate, it still works, but the problem is that you don't know when you squeeze just a little bit, you don't know if you're squeezing the actual active ingredient or you're just squeezing glycerin out of it. Now that glycerin is going to be still mixed with the active ingredient as well, so it's still going to have flux properties, but again, in micro soldering, just the tiny amounts are the difference. So separated flux is not the best for micro soldering. Now a little bit of boiling action early on. That's IPA evaporating, but as you can see, it's not a violent reaction, right? It's not boiling violently. I put a little bit too much, but it stays where you want it to stay. You can see wetting properties are pretty good. Now the chip should no longer escape, but we'll see. But you can see the flux is staying around the chip, right? It's not running away everywhere. Oh, I pressed it too quickly. So let's align it again. Now if I pressed on it, I could probably tack it to the pods, but let's just do it this way. It just takes a little more patience, but it'll work as well. Flux is still around, right? It looks like a good amount of it disappeared, but it's still there. I just put way too much of it, which didn't seem like it was a lot, but I put too much. This is roughly the amount that I should have put, the amount you can see here. It will also flow underneath the chip, so it should work better for Nathan, because he likes when his flux flows underneath the chip after heating up. Whiskey Tango doesn't. My Busy Bee does, but it's not available for purchase just yet. I'm still kind of experimenting with it. Maybe I should put a little more beeswax in it. I'm not sure, but I'm still experimenting. I want to wait for feedback from few people before I make it available for sale. But this one, I love it. It works exactly like 559, or at least in my opinion. Correct me if I'm wrong, or get yourself some and test it out. This iron is driving me crazy. Yeah, I gotta look into the new soldering iron, because this one's been with me for a long time. Now let's drown it in flux. Again, you don't need much. So again, this tube tends to see at this level of tackiness, it should last you a long time. And let's see. More solder. More solder. There. That's more like it. There. Oh, that's too much. There, that should be good. We'll inspect it in a second, because I can't see much. Now it is burning, as you can see, and it will. But that's the beauty of organic materials. Now, Amtech doesn't burn that quickly, but it does burn as well. And once it burns, it's very difficult to clean. This one, even after you burn the crap out of it, it's easy to clean. And since it has mild activator in it, it is performing a lot better than Whiskey Tango, especially for corroded or difficult soldering, essentially. Okay, so we burned the crap out of it. So now let's tilt it a little bit. Put some paper towel underneath so the alcohol can drain nicely at the little tiny angle over here. And let's spray. And the majority has been cleaned. So now let's just do a little toothbrushing. Alright, now it's not sticky, nothing is sticky around it, but I don't think this ground soldered on correctly. Let's take a look. Yeah, I messed up 1, 2, 3 pads, right? This one's not connected completely, and these two not really. Alright, this one, and this one. Now that is obviously my fault, that's not the Flux's fault. So let's fix that. But this side, let's see. Oh yeah, this side is, look, perfection. Better than factory, someone might say. And this side also, and this one also. We have, yeah, it's not perfect alignment, but it's very close to perfect. Yeah, everything soldered on beautifully. So I only messed up the ground, which happens. That's why we inspected afterwards. So let's put more flux over here. It kind of looks like Whiskey Tango, right? But it's a lot more stable. This will not separate. And let's do 370, because I used a little bit too low temperature for this. That's probably why the ground is giving us problems. So once again, let's do the nice, yeah, I could have preheated the chip as well to make this easier, but this should be good. There, and let's clean it again and inspect it again. And now it looks good. Let me just dry it a little more, because there's still some reflections there. And this is what we want to see. Beautiful. Yeah, and this side and pretty much all the sides. Look at this side over here. That's what we want to see on this chip. That's gonna make sure that the car doesn't misfire and it runs smoothly. Better than factory. Now, as I said, this will pass as a no clean flux, but since it does contain mild activator, I recommend cleaning it thoroughly. If you don't, probably nothing will happen. I mean, if you don't clean 559, then you probably can do the same with this one. But I recommend cleaning. I like to clean flux in either case, no matter what flux I'm using. I always like to clean the board, but especially the mildly activated flux, I definitely like to clean it well. I don't want to leave any speck of flux anywhere. And this one especially is easy to clean because all the components of it will dissolve in alcohol eventually, right? It might take a second, It might take a minute or a couple minutes, but eventually all of it will dissolve. So now I'm kind of soaking the vias, so all that flux inside the vias can dissolve and basically self-clean. And there, you can see the bottom of the chip through vias, right? So no flux left. There's a little bit of residue over there, I think, and maybe a little over there. So we can still keep it, I don't know, for a few more minutes. Just drown in alcohol, right? And then spray it again, and it should be nice and clean. But we see the back of the chip. Well, this via is, I think, oh no, yeah, that's the back of the chip as well. But I think this via had a little solder in it, so we're not really seeing the back of the chip, but rather that solder blob left in there. But that's how I like to clean it, so I ensure that there's no flux left. And this one is especially easy. With Kingbow, the problem is that it's water soluble. So you have to use ultrasonic cleaner for that. Now let's dry it and see. Oh, there's a little bit of specks of flux left. So we could still drown it in alcohol and just let it dry, or just throw it in the ultrasonic cleaner. That would even be better. But this is fine. Now let's clean this chip a little bit. And there you go. That should do it. This looks okay. Actually, it's one of the best. That's essentially what it should look like, right? Sometimes it doesn't, but it should still work, although we do have one coming back. The misfire came back after a few days. Most likely I messed up, so we'll inspect that chip and we'll see. Because there's also a possibility that something else is wrong. Maybe we lost compression on one cylinder. Head gasket might be ruined. Alrighty, we are done with this one. I have plenty of Omega 559 for sale. The link is in the description. So if you're interested, get yourself a tube, test it out, tell me what you think. I will have a beeswax formula available as well, but it will still be a little while. Not too long though, but a little while. Anyways, thank you guys very much for watching. I do appreciate you, and I shall see you guys in the next one.